Hello everyone. We're going to go ahead and get started. Welcome to the Useful Conga Composer Parameters webinar. This webinar is a part of our ongoing series of live webinars. Conga Composer has well over 100 parameters available to help you automate and customize your solutions. This webinar will introduce you to some of the most popular and useful of those parameters. I'm Teresa Bowerly, and I'll be your moderator for this session. Before we get started, let's do a little housekeeping. The entire webinar is slated to last for about 30 minutes, including 5 minutes for Q&A at the end. We have a lot of registrants, so everyone's phones will be on mute. If you do have questions, please submit them online. We may not get to all of your questions, but we'll answer as many as we can during the session. Any questions that we do not get to during the FAQ section, we will post to our knowledge base. The webinar is being recorded, and we'll make the recording available within a few days on our YouTube channel as well as in our knowledge base. So let's get started. I'm pleased to introduce Ashley Green. Ashley is the Director of Education and Communities here at Conga, and he is looking forward to sharing his expertise with you in this session. Ashley?
Thank you very much, Teresa. Before we get started, we want to lay out a couple of assumptions that we're making. The first is that you're a Salesforce admin, and you're already familiar with some of the activities involved with working with Salesforce, such as creating buttons and creating reports. We'll assume that you've already created a Conga Composer button so that you're generally familiar with some of the activities that are involved with creating a button. And then what we'll be doing is showing you some parameters to go along with that expertise. That said, let's go ahead and jump into Salesforce. We're going to be working with a contact record and using this as the basis for the customizations that we're doing. We're going to start by working with Jane Gray, and you can see that we've already created and exposed a button that we're calling Useful Parameters. And we'll be using this as the placeholder for the parameters that we're going to be working on. Let's take a quick look at this button. So on this Conga Composer button, we have a series of parameters that we'll be using to update the behavior of the solution. And it's going to allow us to do things such as identify an alternate data source for our solution, to control the format of how the document is generated. We're going to do some activity logging, use some functionality to send emails, and update fields within Salesforce as well. So let's go ahead and get started. The first thing that we're going to do is work with some of the parameters that allow us to control its basic behavior. Let's assume, for example, that you're working on an invoice, and you might want to send that out and have it so that it's locked down. With an invoice, you don't want it to be editable. When you create a document within Conga Composer, it defaults to the same format as the template that you're working from. So for example, if you have a Microsoft Word template, it will also generate a Microsoft Word document. And you might not want that to be the case. We have a functionality called Default PDF. Let me turn off the spell checker there real quick. Called Default PDF. And what that will do is control whether or not the user has the ability, what that will do is default the document to a PDF format. So we're going to go ahead and set that equal to 1. What we also might want to do is to control the name of the document that's being generated. And that's what this amper OFN parameter stands for. What that stands for is output file name. So let's go ahead and give this document that we're generating a name. In our case, we'll be creating a thank you letter. So let's just call this thank you, and then we'll put in the name of the contact that we're working with. And we can actually insert a merge field from Salesforce to do that, and we'll go ahead and put in their first name. Now you might note that there are some pluses in here, and the purpose for that is when you're working on your parameter list in Conga Composer, what you're actually doing is creating a URL. And you don't want to have spaces within the URL because that can cause 404 errors. So I'm going to go ahead and check the other lines to make sure that they don't have spaces in them. None of them do. And I'm going to go ahead and do a quick save, and we're going to run this solution. Okay, it's been updated. I'm going to go back to our contact record. I'll select our useful parameters button. And I just wanted to point out a couple of quick things. First, you can see that it has now set the default to Adobe PDF, although you still have the ability to change it. And let's go ahead and run our solution. We're going to be working with this useful thank you template, so I'll go ahead and select that. We'll perform our merge. And so what we should see is that we will get an Adobe PDF document, and the name of it will be thank you, and then the first name of the person that it is addressed to, the contact that we're working with. Let's take a quick look at it, and you can see that it's a fairly basic document. This Jane is the merge field. This is actually the contact name that we input, and we have some basic text and the ability to add some more information, and we'll use some parameters to do that in a second. Okay, so we've just performed some first basic customizations. Let's do another one. Now let's say, for example, that we're generating this document, but rather than give the individual the option of leaving it as PDF, we want to lock it down to PDF. That's what this FP0 parameter does. If we set that to 0, set that to 1, and we go back, we're going to do a quick refresh because we updated our URL. We'll run our solution one more time, and now we'll see something slightly different in Conga Composer. Now it is locked to Adobe PDF, and we don't have the ability to change it. So as you can see, that's giving us more control over how our solution behaves. So let's go ahead and get a little bit further. When you're working with the Conga Composer solution, the information that's supplied to it comes from your master object. In this case, the contact. So all of the fields that are associated with the contact record are automatically available to your Conga Composer solutions. And that's where that name field in our template came from. Now what we're going to do is to update this a little bit and use a report to bring in additional information. Conga Composer lets you use Salesforce reports to supply an alternate set of information for your solution. And that's what we're going to do in this case. What we're going to do is add some case information to this letter. And to do that, what we're going to do is go to a cases report that we've already created. And this is just a basic report. It filters based on contact ID, and that allows Conga Composer to narrow down the amount of information that's available to the particular contact that you're working with. We have some fields that we're making available, and that's what's going to be available to our solution. What we do is we copy this report ID, and we place it into this ampersand report ID field. Let's go ahead and save this. And now we're going to go back and run our solution one more time. And what we're going to do is use this information from the report to update the template behind our solution. So we're going to run useful parameters one more time. But now what we're going to do is go and do this tool we call the template builder. The template builder makes the fields of Salesforce available for your templates. As you can see, we have the master field that I already referred to. But now if we drop it down, we also have this field called report data. And this now makes all of that case information available. Now let's go in and update the template that we were working with so that we can update our solution. I'm going to go into Office, open up Microsoft Word, and I'm going to open up that template that we were just working with. As you can see, we already have a field input for this contact first name, and we're going to add another couple of merge fields from the report. Let's take the case number, and as you might recall, to update a field, you do Alt-I-F, M as in Mary, Tab, and paste in that field name. So we have a case number. Let's go ahead and add a subject as well. This time we will use the mouse to do so. So we're going to, let me make this a little bigger. We're going to insert, go to quick parts. We're going to add a field. And this is just an alternate way of adding that field, as you might recall. Add the merge field. Whoops. I got a little quick on the trigger finger. Let me try that again. Quick parts, field. Go to merge field and paste in the subject. And then we'll add the status as well. Alt-I-F-M-M and paste. The final thing that we'll do is we'll want to add the table start and table end. And if you don't recall, the purpose of these is to tell Conga Composer where this information is coming from. And so they bracket fields that are being input into your template that aren't coming from your master data set. So we'll start with table start, and I'll input that right before the first field. And I'm going to highlight that in red just to make it more visible. And this field isn't actually displayed on your template, and so that's okay that it's in red. We'll do the same thing with table end. We've added that. We'll highlight that in red as well. And we shall save our template. Now we want to make this template available to Conga Composer. So to do that, we're going to go to the Template Manager. And we already have a useful thank you template, but we're going to want to update that. So I will just attach the new file. That's the one that I just updated. Attach it. And we are done. Now we can go back to our contact. Oops. And we're going to run the solution again. And now what we're going to have is the information that we input to our solution using the report ID is now going to become available. And once it's done, you'll see that we've now updated the template and we have the contact information and the case information available as well. And there you go. So we now have information that's come from the master record and information that has been input from these associated case records as well. All right, we're making some pretty good progress on updating our solution. Now let's do another few cool things. When you're working on a solution, it might be useful to use activities so that you can document what's going on with it. So for example, you might want to have a follow-up or assign it to someone, things like that. If we have a series of parameters that allow you to do that, and those are called the LG or activity logging parameters. The key parameter is LG4 equals 1. This is a toggle which turns on and off the activity logging behavior. The next thing that we might want to do is set a subject for activity logging. So for example, in this case, we're sending a letter, so we just might want to log the fact that a letter was sent. And that's what this will do. LG2 will let you set a follow-up date. So say you've sent a letter and you want to check in for a week with the person that you sent the letter to. LG2 is the number of days that you want to set for your follow-up date in the future. So setting LG2 equals to 7 will set a follow-up date for 7 days in the future. We also have the LG5 parameter. And what that allows you to do is to determine who the activity will be assigned to. In this case, this activity, we're going to go ahead and leave it assigned to the person that the contact that we're generating our solution from. But if you wanted to assign it to someone else, you would just need to put their contact or their lead ID here, and that activity would be assigned to them. The final thing that we're going to want to do is, since we already set a follow-up date, let's also set a follow-up subject. and we'll just call it follow up with, and then the name of the person that we're following up with. And once again, we'll just grab that as a merge field. Okay. So what we've now done is we're going to set a follow-up date for we're going to log an activity and set a follow-up date for 7 days in the future, and the title of it will be follow-up with, and then the name of our contact. We'll go ahead and save our solution once again. We're going to go back, refresh our URL, and we'll run our solution one more time. As you can see, some things have already happened. First, the automatic activity logging has been turned on from LG4 equals 1. We've set the subject to letter sent and a follow-up date of 7 days in the future. We're going to go ahead and select our template one more time and run our merge. All the same things are happening in the background, but now, once the document is generated, we're going to be able to go and see these activities actually logged against our case. Okay, the letter is the same, so we don't need to take a look at that, but our contact has just been updated. So let's take a look, and you can see number 1, that we have a follow-up date set for 7 days into the future, and we have our letter sent activity logged as well. And all of that's being controlled via parameters. So that way, rather than having to go in and manually update this information, you can do it automatically by using parameters within Conga Composer. In addition to being able to update the activities, you also have the ability to update individual fields within Salesforce as well. And that's what we're going to do next. Let's say, for example, that we want to update this region field. We can do that with our master field to set parameters. The first parameter, master field to set 0, is actually the API field name of the field that we want to update. So let's go in and we're going to find out the API field name for that region field. And that's a custom field, so here it is here. So we're going to grab this API field name, copy it to our clipboard. We'll go back to our solution and place it here. The next thing that we're going to do is we want to actually set the value that we're setting it for. So let's set the value to EMEA. And we'll say for, whoops. So we want to log the fact that this person is from the EMEA region, perhaps. We're going to go ahead and save this. We'll go back, refresh, and run our solution. It's going to go through all the same steps before. It'll bring up the Conga Composer window. All of the activity logging is set once again. We're going to go ahead and do a merge. And now what's going to happen is it's going to update this region field to EMEA for us. One important thing to note is that for the master field to set to work, you have to set the activity logging on as well. Okay, now let's go ahead, and we've already merged our document, so we'll do a refresh, and you can see that the field has now been set to EMEA. Another great thing about this is you can not only change this value in the in your master field, you can also change it on any object within Salesforce. So say, for example, you're generating this document from your contact record, but what you want to do is update an associated case. You have the ability to do that as well. And it works very, very similarly. You have to set the API field name, you set the value, and then you set the ID of the specific object that you're working against. Let me give you an example. Let's say that we want to update an associated case. What we would need to do is to first go to Cases, and we're going to find the API field name of the field that we want to work with, and we created a field called Letter Priority. So we're going to go ahead and grab that. And this is actually a case field that we're going to be updating. So we will add that there. Then we need to set the value that we want to set it to, so we'll set a priority of high. And then the final thing that we're going to want to do is to add the ID of the object that we're working with. So now we're going to go back to case fields and go to cases. Actually, I take that back. We can do that from the contact record. We're going to update this 177 case. So we'll grab the case ID and we'll set that value. And so now what we're going to do is we're going to run this solution against our contact record, and we're going to set the letter priority field on our case record to high. So we'll do a quick save. We're going to run our solution one more time. And once again, all of the same steps we'll be going through. Grab the right template there. And we run our merge. And so now all of those same activities that we were doing are being done, but in addition to that, we're updating that letter priority field on the case record. It's now completed. We'll close that out. And now let's go to that record we were talking about, and you can see letter priority is set to high. So this gives us the ability to actually interact in a meaningful way with Salesforce while we're running our solutions as well. Updating fields, setting activity logging, a lot of things that you might have to do manually, you can do by using these parameters. Okay, so we now have a working solution. We're updating fields, we're doing activity logging. Now let's say, for example, that rather than generating this PDF and having to go through and manually mail it to someone, let's go ahead and send this out as an email. We have parameters that will allow you to do that, and that's the email parameters, email to ID and email template ID. Email to ID tells us which individual we want to send this to. So this can be a lead or contact within Salesforce. And then the email template ID is the actual salesforce.com email template that we want to use. In this case, let's go back and we'll use that same contact that we've been working with, and we'll send them an email directly. So the first thing we do is we go back to Jane Gray's contact record, and we copy her ID. We're going to paste it in the email to ID field. The next thing that we're going to want to do is go to our templates. So we'll go to Communications Templates within Salesforce. And we're going to grab an email template. And this, we're going to just use this simple thank you notification. It's just a basic letter with a merge field that includes their name. And we're going to copy this. Maybe we'll paste that into our template ID field. We'll save the solution one more time. We're going to go back to Jane Gray, refresh our URL for the button, and we'll run the solution one more time. Once again, all the same parameters have been set, but this time, instead of pressing the merge button, we press the email button. And now what will happen is the same merge process will occur, but now, rather than outputting the document to our browser, what Conga Composer will do is generate a Salesforce email. It'll be the same format that we just did, with the merge field putting in their name, and now the document is attached as an attachment to that email. So at this point, all you have to do is press send, and you've sent a copy of that document to your end user. So great. We've done some pretty useful things in terms of adding some nice automation to our solution. The final thing that we might want to do As you might recall, as I've been working with the solution, what I've been doing is going back and choosing the and choosing the template each time. You also have the ability to automate that. If you go to the Conga templates, you have a list of all the templates that are available to your solution. And this useful thank you template is the one that we've been using. So what I'm going to do is go in, select this template, and copy its ID. And I'm going to edit the custom button and make one final change. As a matter of best practice, we're going to want this email template ID to occur after we've done our data gathering. So I'm going to go ahead and paste that right back up there. So in the beginning part of the URL, we're getting the master field information. From the report ID, we're getting the report information. And at that point, we want to put the template ID since we're standardizing that to a particular template. I'm going to go ahead and save one final time. Go back to our contacts. We'll select Jane one more time. And now, when we run the solution, you'll see that we don't have to go in and check. We've already pre-checked this useful thank you template. This way, it allows you to automate the experience of your end users even further. So if you want your end users to be able to generate a thank you letter, now all they have to do is to press the Conga Composer button and press email. And the document is generated, the activities are logged, the fields are updated, and all of this is done using our Conga Composer parameters. Okay. Well, one of the nice things about parameters is there are many, many parameters that are available, well over 100. And what we've tried to do over the last 25 minutes or so is show you some of the most popular of those parameters. And at that point, I think I'll turn it back to Teresa and see if we have any questions that have come in. Teresa?
Great. Thanks, Ashley. We did have a question that came in. This is referring to master field to set. Someone is asking, what if you wanted to update more than one field when using master field to set?
There are 3 different master field to set parameters: master field to set 0, 1, and 2. So you can update up to 3 fields with any one of your solutions, and it works exactly the same way. It's just that at the end of the parameter you have 0, 1, or 2 to set the ID of the field that you want to work with.
Okay, great. And another question we got was, can you preview the email body prior to sending if you use an email button instead of the merge field?
Yes. So when I just ran that solution, what that actually is, until you press the send, that really is a preview of the document that you're generating. And I can show you exactly what I mean. So we're going to go ahead and run this solution one more time. I just pressed that button. I press the email. And so at this point, what it's doing is it's generating what that email is going to look like if you send it. And so at this point, you can see that the merge field has been added, and this is actually what your email is going to look like that you're sending to the end user. And it doesn't actually go out until you press the send button.
Okay, great. And let's see, we've got a couple of other questions that are coming through. Can you use Conga to pull data from Excel to populate Salesforce?
No, that's not a capability at this point. Not for populate. So let me make sure that I'm answering the question correctly. So you can't pull information in from Excel to populate Salesforce. We do have Excel templates, and so it is possible to generate Excel documents using information from Salesforce, so to have it go the other direction. But we don't have the ability to pull that information from, except in the form of a template, I should say, which is just for generating your Excel document. But we don't have the ability to pull information the other way back into Salesforce. You would have to use one of the Salesforce data inputting tools to do something like that.
Okay, great. And then we got another question. Someone's asking, if you're wanting to run your Conga solution and send out an email, what if you want to add multiple contacts when you send the email? Maybe you want to add it one contact, or maybe you want it to be the same contact. How would you adjust who you're sending the email to?
There's a couple of ways that you can do that. There's a parameter that we actually have listed down here, email additional to. And what that allows you to do is to specify an email address. And I can show you how that works as well. Let me go back to our solution real quick. Go back to our contacts and our button. And I'm going to edit it. So for example, if you wanted to send it to an additional address, you could just do amper email additional to equals, and then the email address of the individual you want to send it to. So Harry at gmail.com is one way that you could do it. And you can also do it in an automated fashion as well. So if you have an email address that resides within Salesforce, I'm having trouble scrolling. But you have, oh, I'm sorry, I'm inadvertently pasting stuff in there. I'm having a problem with my mouse. But you can specify the text of a field, or you can also specify a Salesforce field in here as well. And those are the addresses of additional people that you want to send that email to. And so I don't believe that there is a limit on that, actually.
Okay, great. And then I think we have time for one more quick question, and this one's a really good question. Can you merge data from two different reports? For example, an activity report and an opportunity report.
Boy, this is great. You're just setting me up. Yes, you can. You can have up to 50 reports that are associated with your solution, and all that you do is you would, I'm going to pretend that these are different email addresses or different IDs. So if I wanted to add additional reports, I would just have to add them like that. One interesting thing too is that when you're working with the reports, if you have up to 50 reports, it might be a little bit confusing. So we also have the ability to add what we call an alias. And the alias is just a, whoops, supposed to be a square bracket. Then the name of the alias. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull these out because these aren't real addresses. But I'm going to save this and show you what I'm talking about. So you can have, like I said, up to 50 different reports separated by commas. And aliases allow you to give names to these. As you might remember, when we first ran the solution, the name of it was report, I believe. Now, if we go to the contact and run the solution one more time, by applying this alias, what we're then able to do is to actually refer to it by that alias name. So now when I go to the template builder, rather than having report as the data source, we can go in and drop it down, and we now have cases. And that allows you to have, like I said, up to 50 different reports, and you can give them different unique names so you know specifically what it is that you're working with.
Okay, great. Thanks, Ashley. That was really helpful.
You betcha.
Do you mind showing us really quick where we will be able to find parameters if we're wanting to see a list of all the available parameters to use?
Sure thing. The way that you get to those is from our knowledge base. I'm going to go to our website, congamerge.com, and you go to support. And here you can access, we have over 600 different knowledge base articles available, one of which is this index of Conga Composer parameters. You can search for it by typing the text into the search here, or you can just click on the hyperlink. And here you can see a list of all the different parameters that are available. If you click on any of the links, it'll bring you to an article that gives you more details. And if you're interested in a particular type of parameter, like email parameters, for example, you can click on the category and get more summary information about all the parameters that are in that category.
Okay, great. And so I think that's all the time we have for questions.
Okay.
So Thanks again, Ashley, for presenting today. I did want to point out some helpful resources for our audience. If you go to our support page, like Ashley was just visiting, and you search for the term useful Conga resources in our knowledge base, you'll be able to get access to the following list of articles here. So you've got access to Conga Quick Start tutorials. So this is great if you need a quick jump start when you're getting started with Conga. We also have a Conga error message archive, which is also helpful. You might be testing and running your solution, and you might come across some common errors that happen. This article can kind of help point you in the right direction as to why you might be getting an error message. We also have a Conga webinar archive, so including today's recording and other webinars that we have presented and hosted will be there on this list, so you can listen to past webinars that we've done. We also have the Conga webinar registration, which I'm sure most of you, that's how you registered for today's webinars. Then we have a Conga template library. This is also helpful if you're just getting started and need some inspiration on creating Conga templates. That's a good place to start to kind of help you get access to the different styles of templates that we have available for you to use. We also have our Conga documentation, and this link will take you to a page for documentation for all of our different products, and this is more detailed information as well. So, and also we do have a YouTube channel, so if you're on that support page, you can click on the icon that says videos, and that's going to take you to our YouTube channel with a list of all the other videos that we do have available. And so, as we mentioned earlier, this webinar is a part of our ongoing webinar series. We also have webinars on getting started with Conga Composer, creating Word templates, Conga Composer e-signature solutions, Conga Composer for nonprofits. So if you visit the support page and go to the registration link for webinars, that'll be the best way to figure out or see what the next upcoming webinars we have scheduled. So we're grateful that you joined us today. As always, be sure to let us know what you think. And as we mentioned earlier, we'll after today's webinar, you'll be sent a follow-up with a link to this video along with the FAQs from today's session, so you can find some answers there as well. Thanks again for taking time to join us today. We hope you enjoyed the past 30 minutes.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.